What's up, folks? Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for being here. Please take a second to. Oh wait, hold on. We gotta see the full Assange poster. Very important. How you guys doing? Hope you're doing well out there. And please take a second to share this. Please, if you aren't already, become a member at rockfin.com/Lee Camp. These live streams will only live there. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, they will go out live on YouTube and Facebook as well. However, they will only live permanently on rockfin.com/Lee Camp. Okay, as you saw in the title, Tulsi Gabbard has gone like full on Fox News. She just got back from, I'm going to play a clip in a second, by the way. She just got back from Africa. She's a active reserves, meaning she still serves in the military. And she came back and said, sorry, folks, I haven't tweeted in a while. I was joining our men and women in the military in Africa. I was serving my post in Africa, fighting Al-Qaeda or whatever she said. And really the way, we should view that now that we understand about how American empire works, about how our military works, really it's her coming back going, hey, sorry, I had to help kill some fucking people in Africa, which is what our military does. And so I was out doing that and I'm back now. And she's saying, I'm back and I'm better than ever. And I'm not sure who got in her ear out there. Now, granted, let me give a little background. Tulsi Gabbard has been great on certain things and not so good on other things. And so I was never a Tulsi fan. I think I played some clips when she said awesome things during a debate or two, to talk about how when it came to militarism, she was left of what's allowable in the Democratic Party, which is basically if you're left of drop bombs all the time, if you're left of Yosemite Sam, if you're left of that, then you are not really allowed on the Democratic debate stage. They don't like having you there, so they try and find ways to beat you down. Well, they called her a Russian agent and all that shit because they couldn't handle having someone who actually spoke out against our militarism, against our American empire. However, during all that, if you actually read the fine print, it's kind of similar. It's got some similarities to Andrew Yang, where it's like some good stuff set up front, and then you're like, let me see what's going on behind that. And you start reading farther down. It's like an iPhone's agreement. You start reading farther down, you're like, wait, what the fuck? What did he just say? What? Wait. This part where you said that our military needs to stop being involved in other countries, but you're all for the drone wars that continue to go. You want to continue to see endless drone bombing? Obama's final year, we dropped 26,000 drone bombs, and you want to see that keep going? That's the peaceful candidate in the Democratic Party. That's the pro-peace candidate, is drop those fucking drone bombs. Goddamn right. That's our peace candidate in the Democratic Party back in the last campaign or whatever, one before that. Anyway, if you read down in the fine print on Tulsi Gabbard, she's never been great on certain things. She's a big fan. She's a part Indian, right? Hawaiian Indian, and she's a big fan of Modi, who in India, who's kind of like a Trump light. He's not quite Trumpy, but he's close. And so she, takes photos with him. She's very excited about him. And you just kind of look at some of these things and it doesn't look great. It's not. And I'm the first to say that purity tests are often bullshit. If you disagree with someone on one topic or something, you're like, well, they're great on 99% of things, but I don't like this one thing they said. Then you're probably never going to find anyone to ever support, because whoever agrees on 100% of everything anyone's ever done. However, this is more than that. This is most of what she stands for. So anyway, that was before. And now if you go to her Twitter feed, it and you were to just start reading down and you were to cover up the name at the top, you wouldn't know whether it was a Twitter feed from Fox News or not. You really wouldn't. And so sure enough, Fox News had her on the other day, which is the clip I'm going to play, to, I think it was this week, to agree with everything they were saying. Because a lot of what she's been saying has been on immigration, and she apparently is just fucking awful on that. I don't know how long that's been going on. Like I said, there was enough about her that I found kind of disconcerting that I never really needed to dig into everything she believed. But so here's the tweet she's tweeted out with the Fox News segment. She says, I was hoping that Biden would keep his promise to try to unite our country, but instead this administration has used race and identity politics to divide us. First of all, identity politics can be a problem. It can be weaponized. So there's a lot of questions to ask about identity politics. But when people just generally go like, oh, Biden's dividing us with identity politics, it's often right wingers who are like, I don't like that they said something nice about black people. That's most often that's who's upset about it. That doesn't mean that identity politics is all great. I mean, because the DNC also does know how to weaponize identity politics. For example, in order to sink Nina Turner's run in Ohio, they put forward a big corporate black female. Why did they pick a black female? Because they knew they needed to weaponize identity politics. Nina Turner being a black female, well, we'll throw another black female into the race, but that one will be all good for corporate garbage and endless war. And we'll put her in, and then people won't. They may have thought some people wouldn't know the difference, but they thought, well, at the very least, it'll divide the black vote, and that'll be enough to beat Nina Turner. And they were right. So they were weaponizing identity politics to do that. So there's a lot of problems with identity politics, but in this case, in this circumstance, when you're also like, when in the same sentence, you're like, identity politics is Biden's dividing the country with identity politics. And also these fucking immigrants are coming in. Then you see what the person really wants to get at. So Tulsi Gabbard says, identity politics to divide us are, well, hold on, I'll start at the beginning. I was hoping that Biden would keep his promise to try to unite our country, but instead this administration has used race and identity politics to divide us. Our freedom of speech and civil liberties are under assault. That is true. So I agree with her on that. Inflation is going through the roof, and we've got open borders. Okay, back up, folks. Whoa. Let's just hold on a second. She has this laundry list, which is like half things I agree with and half Fox News talking points. It's like, yes, inflation is going nuts, but that talking point is usually being used by the right wing in order to go after like fucking welfare programs, assistance programs. Very rarely is it connected to like, oh, they dumped $4 trillion into Wall Street in the middle of a pandemic in order to prop up Wall Street. You know, very rarely do they connect it to because we sent all that money to Wall Street. Instead, the right wing likes to use inflation because too much money was given to people for unemployment or for eviction help. And it's like, that is not really the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is that you're pumping up Wall Street, which is a fucking balloon. It's a bubble because guess what? Capitalism on the stock market, it works in a boom bust cycle. So you always go from one bubble to a bust. And our busts have been getting bigger and bigger. No one say, if any of you make any boob jokes, I swear to God, don't do it. The busts have been getting bigger and bigger. Nope, you're doing it again. They've been getting bigger and bigger. And in order to sustain an economy, in order to fucking prop up this thing that's going, they dump more and more money into Wall Street. Trillions of dollars. They did it after the 2008 collapse. They're doing it during COVID for the CARES Act or whatever it's called. The We're going to Help the People Act, in which they give $4 trillion to Wall Street. So you can talk about inflation as long as you connect it to those things. But also, the other thing is often when people highlight inflation as the problem, it's because they don't want to talk about the fact that it's really capitalism in general that's the problem. So instead they go, if we just got this inflation in check, everything would be fine. Then we could go back to exploiting poor people effectively and not have to worry about this inflation thing, which is hurting me too. It's hurting me, the guy on the yacht with the multi-million dollars. Inflation is not good for me either. If we could just stop inflation, then we could just fuck over the poor and not have it hurt me too. That's the goal here. So people like to pinpoint that inflation's the problem when it's just the whole fucking capitalist system. Anyway. Oh, yeah. And then she gets into, I'll get into this in the video clip as well, but open borders. She thinks Biden has open borders. She's just believing garbage Fox News talking points. Biden has, I'll give you some facts. I'll give you some facts in a minute. Let's watch this video. But yeah, it's not open borders. It's not open borders. We'll get into that. So yeah. This is, if it plays, Tulsi Gabbard on Fox News. Let me know if you can't hear it or anything.
Let's bring in former Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman, former presidential candidate, and Army reservist, Tulsi Gabbard. She's just back from deployment in Africa to go after al-Qaeda-affiliated jihadists there. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brett.
I want to talk about Afghanistan, foreign policy, and counterterrorism, but I want to start on the issue of immigration that's pressing now in the news. You tweeted out this today. You said the Biden-Harris open door policy has been a disaster. It needs to end now. The main beneficiaries of open borders are the gangs, cartels, and human traffickers. The Trump policy of having people wait on the other side of the border worked and needs to be reinstated. Your thoughts about what's happening in Del Rio and how the administration is handling it?
It is an utter disaster and failure, and it's directly attributed to the Biden-Harris administration's open border policy.
Okay, hold on a second. I love how literally the question was, what's going on in Del Rio? Now, you guys have heard about this. 15,000 Haitian migrants fleeing have fled their homeland and are trying desperately to get somewhere where they can have a life and have a comfortable, not an insecure life. And so they found themselves at the border at Del Rio, I guess, which is, the border of Texas and Mexico. And they were stuck there. And there's now this outcry, these videos of Border Patrol literally on horses, literally whipping Black people, which great image, great fucking, doesn't that just say it all? Don't you just love it? You should just, can we put Biden on green screen and just behind him, it'll just be the fucking white Border Patrol whipping Black people at our border. Biden tells us that, it's fine. And this is not a racist country. But so they're literally, he's asking her about a situation in which people are not being allowed into this country. Not being allowed. In fact, they're being shipped back to Haiti, which we have also helped destroy. And the question is, hey, Tulsi, how do you feel about these 15,000 people that are stuck at the border? They're dying, they're starving, they have little kids with them. There's obviously disease or COVID can be running through those areas. It's just fucking, a horrific situation. Tell us what you think about that. And she says, the problem is open borders. Does that sound like an open border to you? 15,000 people stuck at the border, being shipped out, kicked out with whips. Does that sound like an open border? This is pure idiocy on its face. That is not an open border. That is what a closed and racist border looks like. Anyway, this is not an open border, and I want to give you some facts on this. This is, let's see if I can share a different file here. This is from the Tennessean. I mean, you can get it from other sources as well, but they thought they summarized it pretty well. Since President Biden took office almost 100 days ago, so this is a little while back because it's been more than 100 days, but 100 days ago, more than 100,000 people have been deported or expelled at the border. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and the Department of Homeland Security has violently separated many of our neighbors from their families and communities. At this current rate, Biden is quickly approaching former President Donald Trump's number of 260,000 deportations. Biden is on pace to beat Trump's record. During the election, Biden mobilized voters who were scandalized by Trump's immigration policies. He promised a complete reversal of Trump's draconian policies and a new immigration policy. There's way too many words. They've said policy way too many times in this paragraph. A new immigration policy that reflects our highest values. 3 months in, we are still seeing the growth of the most terrorizing aspects of our criminalizing immigration system, detention and deportations. So there's just a portion of it. That's before there were people on horseback whipping them. Biden continues to keep children in cages, but now they're called overflow facilities, which sounds like a bot that has been implanted in your head. Every time you try and say kids in cages, it overrides it. And in your brain, you hear overflow facilities. They continue to separate families. They continue to kick people out of their homes. And he's on pace to beat Trump's deportation record. Not to mention, this is a president who was vice president during the single largest number of deportations that a president has ever had under Obama, right? You've heard him called the deporter in chief. Obama saw more deportations than ever before. Now, Trump would have beaten that record probably if he'd been in office 8 years, but for the 8 years of Obama, yeah, can't fucking beat it. And do you think Vice President Biden might have been hanging around at some point? And if he had wanted to, despite the fact that Vice President doesn't have a lot of power like in the Oval Office, Vice President has a lot of power like in the American dialogue. If Biden was on television every night going, this is horrific, we're deporting all these people, it would have been a fucking scandal. Obama would have had to deal with that. Like, no, Biden didn't give a fuck, all right? And so this is Tulsi Gabbard selling you Fox News talking points that it's an open door policy. Utterly false, utterly fake news. And she has to go to Fox News to relay it. Now, as you guys know, CNN, all the others, they're all garbage in their own way. But right now, we're talking about how Tulsi Gabbard has become full Fox News, and she's on Fox News spouting Fox News talking points that are completely fake. All right, though, let's see a few more seconds of Tulsi. Because she is so good. She's just such a great speaker.
This is not only a humanitarian crisis, it is a national security crisis. And it's something
Yeah, I love the idea of throwing in humanitarian crisis while you're advocating for destroying more lives. You're advocating for keeping those people there, some of them with very small children. Just keep them at the border and let them die there. That's, if more of them die, that's less of a problem to deal with, right? If you have 15,000 there and like 5,000 die in the coming weeks because they're sitting at the border with no food, then you only have 10,000 to deal with. So that's less of a humanitarian crisis, right? At that point, it's only 10,000. So yeah, I 100% agree with her. The most humanitarian thing to do is try and kill a bunch of those people, and then we'd have less of a humanitarian crisis. And then she throws in national security. There's also a national security crisis, which, to get into, I talk about the multiple levels of reality. So we've been talking mainly about the surface level. To get into another level, this is all toxic nationalism. This is pretending humans on this planet shouldn't be working together, shouldn't be actually creating something positive and sustainable as a globe, as opposed to, I was born on this side of the line, you were born on this side of the line, so fuck you, I hope you die, awesome. Like, what the fuck? Does that make any logical sense to you? Are you what? What? This is a woman who comes from an island that the American empire fucking just annexed, just grabbed and said, this is ours now. They just walked onto Hawaii, which is nowhere near the United States. Fucking gave the indigenous, leader president there an ultimatum. And the ultimatum basically said, like, let us run things or else. And then once they were in charge, they had a vote as to whether Hawaii should become a state in the Union. So she comes from an island that the American empire just fucking grabbed and took over. And she now is saying this is a national security problem, having so many poor Haitians on the border. And then in that tweet he read, she also says that who benefits the most from this is gangs, cartels, and human traffickers. It's amazing to see hatred and toxic nationalism and just fucking treating other human beings like shit disguised as caring. I care about those people being sex trafficked or human trafficked. That's what I care about. Really? Because of the 15,000 that are at that border right now, Haitians that are at that border, what is the percentage that you think are actual hardcore gang members looking to just kill some people? I bet you it's a tiny, tiny percentage, okay? Most of those people, fucking, older women, men with babies on their shoulders, these are not gang members looking to wreak havoc, okay? These are not the fucking cartels that are, the cartels have plans, all right? And their plans are not, let's go sit down under a bridge at the border for fucking months on end, seeing if we can maybe get allowed into the United States. They have more sophisticated plans than that. All right. I got news for you. It's horseshit. And it's pathetic.
Said all along, which is that if we do not secure our borders, then we can't have a secure nation. There are so many issues that have happened under this administration that have led to this point, and their continued failure of leadership is exacerbating the crisis that we're seeing play out before our very eyes.
But
now, I would agree that there's a failure of leadership, but not that they need to be solidifying borders and deporting more people. That's not the answer. Just destroying more lives and to use identity politics, right? Many people during the election talked about how Tulsi Gabbard was one of the few women of color up on that stage, along with Kamala Harris, one of the few women of color up there. And here she is promoting policies that are just like who do they harm most? They harm people of color. They harm women of color. They harm children of color. So if you really want to play that identity, talk about the identity politics game, that's who gets harmed most from these policies. And here she is promoting the largely white, largely wealthy American empire line that is spit out by Fox News on a daily basis. Again, I'm not saying all the garbage liberal networks have their shit together, but I spend most of my time going after them. So this is one of the rare clips going after Fox News.
Do you think, having been in Congress, that Congress can deal with this issue?
Congress has proven, unfortunately, to put partisan politics ahead of actually passing real necessary immigration policy reform.
But here's the thing. It's like, yes, Congress is a shit show, but what does she think would be effective policy? She's already told us it's to deport as many people as possible. And in fact, they put more funding into that stuff than ever before. Biden is trying to deport more people than his already, on pace to be record-setting deportations. He's trying to deport more under a Trump-era rule that allowed them to be deported because of COVID because of COVID policies without ever seeing a judge or any kind of, actual hearing as to whether they should be allowed in here. Many of these people are refugees, which we're supposed to allow in. And of course, what Tulsi also is not mentioning is these people are running from our fucking policies, our fucking coups, our fucking wars that we've created in South and Central America and in Haiti and in all of these places. That's what they're running from. Countries that we have helped destroy. We've put in puppet governments. We've put in fucking dictators. We've endorsed fascists like Bolsonaro. All of these people are fleeing our garbage, our belligerent shit show created by the military that Tulsi Gabbard is a part of and proudly continues to be a part of. I have no problem with veterans. Many of them, and I talk about how they should be treated better. I talk about how they should get better care. Many of them were lied to into going into these wars. But the people that like Tulsi Gabbard who say, I want to be on a stage talking about my policies, about what I understand about the American experience, the American empire, domestic and foreign policy. She's chosen to be someone who's speaking out about these policies and yet apparently has not learned the proper lessons about our military. Even though she is one of the most outspoken about the harms of our military, she continues to serve, nice euphemism, in our military, continues to further the aims, continues to support the drone war, continues to act like we're doing some kind of benefit in all these other countries we're in. Meanwhile, she has spoken out against having 900 bases around the world, yet she goes and serves on those bases. Like the one in Africa, wherever she was. So, I don't know. It's just so much garbage. It's pathetic to see. And
but what we've seen under the last...
it just shows that she... She is supporting all of the shit that I think people thought she was better than. They thought that wasn't what she stood for. And like I said before, it's not like I was a Tulsi Gabbard supporter. Occasionally I play a clip of hers where she was correctly calling out the Democrats for their corruption. But, if you go to her Twitter feed now, you scroll down, honestly, you could replace her name with Fox News, send it to a friend, and they'd be like, wow, Fox News is garbage, isn't it? Let's see. Biden-Harris open door policy, national security crisis at our southern border. We can't have a secure nation. By the way, that's like military propaganda, standard military propaganda. We need our nation to be secure. But what is it we mean by secure? Oh, we mean bombing other countries. That's our security. No, that fucking makes us less secure. Okay? Having armed troops in fucking countries all over the world makes us less secure. We could end world hunger instantly with a tiny fraction of our military budget, and that would make us secure. More secure than we've ever been. Because guess what? People don't want to bomb and destroy the country that ends world hunger and gives everybody clean water and gives everybody housing. And we could do that with a fraction of our military budget. Nope. Not going to do that, right? And she's going to claim we need to create more security. The security bullshit, I mean, that is standard old U.S. war propaganda. Let's see what else she's got here. Oh, yeah, she's got a strange bunch of tweets about a little girl. But, she's standing up for Simone Biles, which, of course, yeah. I mean, I feel like that stance is kind of... Is anyone against that? Is anyone like, no, fucking gymnast doctors should be able to rape and sexually assault the gymnast? Like, that's one of those stances where you're just like, yeah, of course. Yeah. Anyway, here's the one where she tweeted why you haven't heard from her recently. You haven't heard much from me lately as I've been gone for the last 4 months on active duty tour and deployment in Africa as a civil affairs officer supporting a special forces mission to go after Al-Qaeda affiliated jihadists. It was truly my honor to work. Okay, so what is a Al-Qaeda affiliated jihadist? Well, it very well might be one of the groups that we have helped fund and armed. So she's not mentioning that in her tweet, that we helped create Al-Qaeda. We helped. This is getting down to the second level of this reality, second layer. We helped create Al-Qaeda. We helped create ISIS. We continue to fund and arm various groups that are affiliated to Al-Qaeda. One of the ones that we funded and armed in Syria is al-Nusra, which is an Al-Qaeda offshoot. And Tulsi Gabbard is acting like it's just cut and dry, right? I'm over there with the military fighting Al-Qaeda. Yay! Also, she doesn't happen to mention that of the Al-Qaeda folks that the Al-Qaeda terrorists that attacked us on 9/11, they were funded by Saudi Arabia. So that seems to be step one, not going over and attacking people in Africa using drone bombs that kill 90% innocent civilians. That's not how you solve a problem. So it's like she's just spouting bullshit. I mean, is anyone buying that? Is any left-wing voice still think, yeah, she's got her shit together. That's our lady. Oh man, she's got it right. All right. Well, there was one other story I wanted to get to, although that one took up a long time. I'll try and make this next one a little quicker, but some quick notes. Hope you listen to the live episode of Government Secrets, my podcast, Government Secrets with Graham Elwood. I think you're really going to like it. We just taped it in LA. You can get that free on any podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. And if anybody's donating in the super chat, all of those donations go to people who are struggling, people who need a little help. So that's where all those go. If you do want to support my stuff, that's liberapay.com/Lee Camp, liberapay.com/Lee Camp. But all the other donations, Rockfin. Also, if you're not watching this live on you can Venmo at Lee Camp. All those donations also go to people who are struggling, people who need help in these incredibly tough times. So I just want to talk briefly about, you might have seen several members of the squad stood up against the $1 billion allotment to Israel that was going to fund their Iron Dome program, which basically is a, missile system that shoots other missiles out of the sky. But as we've dealt with Russia, when we have wanted to create missile shields, is that each side goes, it's just a deterrent. Yeah, but it stops the other from being able to hit you. So in fact, it increases the power of your arsenal because you can hit them. So really, it's just furthering this endless war and making one side more powerful. So whenever they try and tell you, oh, it's for peace, it's progressive to have our iron shield. No, it's bullshit. It just creates more death and war. There's no such thing as good guy missiles. Like these are positive missiles. These are the ones that really help do nice things. They like clean around the house and take care of your kid. We have a rough day and you need someone to look after your 3-year-old. Yeah, it's you get the Iron Shield, the Iron Dome to do it. So several members of the squad, about 9 members of the squad, or no, more than that, 11 or 12 members, said they weren't going to vote for a large bill that the $1 billion to Israel, which, by the way, is just a portion of the billions we give to Israel every year. We give them billions of dollars to support Israel with their apartheid state. So just know that going in. So the $1 billion for the Iron Dome, they said, we're not voting for this larger bill with that in there. And so they got it stripped out. And there were there were some, Palestinian groups, there were some left-wing groups rightfully saying, this is a win. It might be short-lived, but it's a win that people even stood up against this Iron Dome garbage, this another $1 billion to Israel. So then two things happen that are kind of important. One is the Democratic leadership, Pelosi and them. This shows how much they care about the victims of Israel's assault on Palestine. They took the Iron Dome funding out of the larger bill, got the larger bill passed, then put the Iron Dome funding back as its own bill, and it passed 420 to 9. 420 members of the House of Reps voted for the Iron Dome $1 billion to Israel, which is just a portion of the billions we give to Israel. I mean, how fucked is that? So, and then the 9 members were, I think it was 1 Republican, and all the rest are people that most people consider members of the squad. But then AOC, who had initially been part of the group that said, we won't vote for this because of the Iron Dome funding, when push came to shove and they actually had the vote on just the Iron Dome bill, she voted present rather than voting yes or no. So kind of an impressive act of cowardice at the last minute, so that her name couldn't be attached to a yes or no vote on Israel. So yeah, that's just something to know. And I think if you get, so that's mostly the surface level. If you get below the surface level to the second layer of reality, the 420 to 9 vote shows that the two parties are basically the same, right? With the exception of 9 people. 420 voted together to give another $1 billion to Israel to essentially bomb Palestine for war, for death, for destruction. And they all agreed on that. And this is one of the few things that the Democrats and Republicans agree about. This is one of the, or the few things they act like they agree about. As I've said many times, they actually agree on like 80% of the structural issues of this country. So if you were to put capitalism to a vote in the House, it'd be 429 to 0, right? Or probably, if you were to put consumerism to a vote, 400 or whatever, even more than that, because the ones that aren't there would probably show up just to make sure they cast their vote for capitalism. In the Senate, it'd be 100 to 0 for capitalism. So most of these structural issues don't come to a vote in our Congress. But in a moment like this, you see where they stand on war and death and killing and destruction of Palestinians' lives. They all agree. They all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and they love it. They love it. Another $1 billion going to. Think of how hard it's been to get a few $1 million to fix the lead pipes in Flint, or a few $1 million for the 9/11 first responders bill that was to go to their health care. It's been like pulling teeth to get that shit. But another $1 billion to Israel for war, easy peasy, 420 to 9. 420 to 9. And so the deeper layer of this is this actually shows how united the two parties are on war, and it shows how much they're owned by Israel. Almost the entirety of Congress is still owned by Israel. Now, there's a select few people that, and when they do something positive, I will say they do something positive. So standing up against this was positive. It is. It may be somewhat performative, but it's positive. And occasionally you'll have them speak out against Israel on issues of Palestine. I don't think you really hear much of that from AOC. But there's more to the squad than just her. Anyway, it shows how united the two parties are, really, and how owned they are by Israel. because they all fear that, first of all, they would stop getting money from things like AIPAC. They fear that they'd stop getting money from all of their donors that do support Israel. So all the big corporate donors that are like, yeah, Israel killing Palestinians, awesome. They're afraid those people would subtract their campaign funding. They're also afraid that they can't run for higher office. They're in the House of Representatives right now. Maybe they want to run for Senate. They need Israel to give the okay for them to do that. And so they don't want to piss off Israel or run for president. They know they need the okay from Israel. So that's kind of a deeper layer of this. And finally, this, I mean, I did say I kind of already said this, but they unite over war. But these same people don't unite over life or sustainability or helping people, like true humanitarianism. I don't mean fake USAID, let's create a coup in Venezuela humanitarianism. I mean real humanitarian, actually caring about humans. They don't unite over that. They unite over war. They unite over war, exploitation, profit. And to get a layer deeper than that, again, this is how capitalism works, right? As the elections become more and more bought out, more and more money influences the elections, then capital, the rich, the oligarchy have more and more sway over those elections, and therefore can push more and more bills that work for them. And so you see this stuff speed up as it goes along. And war is profitable. Having Israel destroy their neighbors is profitable. It's good for the empire because power is also money. So this is how capitalism works. This is not a fluke, not a mistake, not a, oh, that's odd. They all unite to send $1 billion for missiles in Israel. It's not odd. It's how the system works. And honestly, that's one of the notes that I feel like if there's one thing I could fucking slam through people's skulls, it's like, this is how it works. This is, for fuck's sake. There's so many people, and even when I'm agreeing with them, even when I'm like, yes, you're right, they still go, if we could just, get a couple of Congress people in there that would be angry about this. And it's like, no, it's bigger than that. This is how the system works. Even if you got a few more Congress people in there that they gave a shit like that, it would eventually be co-opted. It would eventually be taken over. This is how the system works. It goes there and it speeds up as it gets to the end because the powerful have more and more power. The rich have more and more wealth. And so they can do more and more. Not to mention, connected to this whole system, to again go down to layer number 4 or whatever, these are sociopaths. These are people that are willing to sacrifice anything to achieve power and money. So they got there by being sociopaths. They were electable for corporate America because they had proven that they were sociopaths, that they fit in with corporate America. And that's, again, how capitalism works. Capitalism, it brings the sociopaths to the top because it's a profit-based system, profit over all else, meaning if you are willing to stab somebody to get rich, then you fit into this system. And so the sociopaths rise to the top, and then they get elected to office because they are the ones that corporate America approves of. So again, that's how the system works. Not a fucking accident. People, it's amazing how much people are just, it's because we haven't pushed them enough on Burgundy Blue. It's like, look, I'm all for pushing on issues, but you got to also, at the end of the day, understand that this is how the system works. And you can win gains. Let's say they even stopped Iron Dome, all right? Let's say in this case, the fucking shitbags that want to send $1 billion for missiles to Africa, to Israel, let's say they lost. And it was an oh my God moment. They did it. The true progressives actually stood up. They fought back and they fucking won and they stopped that $1 billion. That's incredible. Great. I would celebrate that. I would say, Yay for them. Yay for stopping that $1 billion. But I would not forget about the fact that that's not going to last long, because that doesn't fit with how this system works. It would be a temporary win. It would be the exception that proves the rule. It would be a temporary win in a system that is spiraling towards an end game. And I don't enjoy saying that. It's the fucking truth. That's how it works. I mean, you can't. I think some people think like, well, it feels better to believe kind of the lie. And it's like, I don't feel better when I'm trying to convince myself of a lie. I don't feel better when I'm imagining a fairy tale is true. I want the truth, and that is the truth. So anyway, that's your moment of clarity. Hope you got something out of it. And I hope you'll share these. I hope you'll let people know. And we have a new Redacted Tonight airing tonight, as well as a new Government Secrets. We live stream it at 6 p.m. Eastern on Graham Elwood's channel. So that's on youtube.com/Graham Elwood, as well as rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. And then a couple of days later, it comes out on the podcast platform. And it comes out on my channels as well a couple of days later. So don't worry if you miss it tonight. But if you want to join us live, that's 6 p.m. Eastern tonight at youtube.com/Graham Elwood, rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. But if you're going to join Rockfin, don't join Graham's page. Only join through my page, because fuck that guy. No, I'm kidding. Love Graham. Graham's wonderful. But if you're going to join Rockfin, join rockfin.com/LeeCamp. All right, guys. That's what I got. Check out Redacted tonight. Hate it when I say that. Hate it when I double it tonight. And you can also get all of this at radindymedia.com. Oh, yeah, maybe I'll give you my standard other headlines at radindymedia.com today. I'll do that real quick. If it loads. All right. From Common Dreams, echoes of the past are present in Texas's latest racist attack on education. From Unicorn Riot, celebrating Black joy virtually as Black Storytellers Festival hits 31 years. From Speaking Security, that's a great page, by the way. House Democrats who voted against the Pentagon budget cuts voted against the cuts, meaning they voted for more money to the Pentagon. Those House Democrats took 3.7 times more military industry cash than their peers. From Common Dreams, the EU's undying fealty to the imperial U.S. leads to the latest humiliation. And then next on Rad Indie Media is my redacted VIP interview with the creator of Fred Hampton Leftists, Nick Cruz, talking about a general strike. From Mint Press, will there be another coup in Brazil? And I'll give you one more. Let's see. From Counterpunch, the record-breaking failures of nuclear power. Anyway, all of that, as well as much more, is over at radindymedia.com. Okay, keep fighting.